Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a regular meeting of the Newark Zoning Board of Adjustment. Today's date is Thursday, April 11th, 2024. The purpose of this meeting is to hear requests for variances from the Newark zoning and land use regulations under the authority of the municipal land use law. If you're an applicant for a D or use variance, you should be aware that such a variance can only be granted after showing that special reasons for the grant of the variance exist and that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the zoning plan, of the city of Newark. You should also be aware that in order to be granted such a variance, you require an affirmative vote of 5 members of the 7-member Board of Adjustment. Other variances require a majority of 4 votes to grant the variance. If you're an applicant for any variance and your variance is denied by this board, you have a right to appeal to the Superior Court of the State of New Jersey within 45 days of notice of the and that court may overturn the decision of this board. If you're an objector to any type of variance and the variance is granted, you too may appeal to the Superior Court of the State of New Jersey within 45 days of the decision of this board. If you do file an appeal, I ask that in addition to complying with any notice requirements under the court rules or statute, that you provide a copy of your complaint with all supporting documentation to the zoning board secretary, who will ensure a copy is provided to our council. Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by notifying the Star Ledger, the Jersey Journal, the Newark City Clerk, and posting a copy on the bulletin board in the basement of Newark City Hall. In addition to adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this remote public meeting, as permitted under statute, were placed on the City of Newark's website. Members of the public may notify the host you would like to ask questions or make statements by using the raised hand feature at the bottom of your computer screen or mobile device. If you are calling on a telephone, you can dial *9 to alert us that you would like to ask a question or make a statement. I remind you that the board is a quasi-judicial board, and as such, if appeals are taken, we are required to provide a copy of the official transcript to the Superior Court. Statements put in the chat are not part of the official transcript. We want to make sure that your questions, the answer to those questions, and any statements you have are properly recorded. So I would ask that you refrain from using the chat, use the raise hand feature, so we make sure we have your statement recorded properly. The meeting of the Board of Adjustment will now come to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Member Hall.
Present.
Member Hardesty.
Present.
Member Comesañas.
Present.
Member Jones.
Present.
Member Rivero.
Present.
Member Cobian.
Present.
Member Torres.
Present.
Vice Chair Mumford.
Present.
Chair Alfont.
Present. I see that council is with us. Council, if you could just put your board council, if you could put your appearance on the record for us, please.
Carolina Corbello on behalf of Dejal Waters.
Thank you, council, and welcome. Can we call the first case, please, Madam Secretary?
Yes, the time is 6:17 p.m. The first item is ZBA-22-103, reconsideration, located at 780 Sanford Avenue, block 4089, lots 36, 37, and 38 in the West Ward. The applicant is 780 Sanford Ave, LLC. The board voted to deny application ZBA 22-103, which was for construction of a new 5-story, 41-unit mixed-use building with a ground floor commercial space and on-site parking in the C1 zone. The board will vote whether to reconsider their September 28th decision or not.
Counsel, for this, could you please identify yourself by raising your hand?
So good evening, Chair. It's Marcia Moore from Post Pause on behalf of the applicant 780 Sanford.
Good evening, Ms. Moore. Are there any persons who have an interest in the Sanford Avenue application? Any other persons other than counsel who have an interest in the Sanford Avenue application? If so, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your computer screen or press *9 on your mobile device to identify yourself. I would ask that you do so now. Madam Secretary, are there any raised hands?
Yes, there was one raised hand.
Could you bring that person in?
Yes, there is. Ms. Coombs-Hollis.
It's who?
Ms. Coombs-Hollis.
Ma'am, could you identify yourself? Are you an objector on this? Are you an objector on this application?
Good evening, Chair. I'm not an objector. I'm interested.
Yeah. Oh, Ms. Hollis. Hi,
Yes,
how are
sir.
you?
Great.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Counsel, Ms. Moore, good to see you. It's not where I thought I would see you tonight.
You're not seeing me there. Unfortunately, I'm here. I apologize.
Yep.
I hope
Always an excuse. I understand. I'm told you have a revised request, counsel?
Yes, and thank you. Just by way of background, as Madam Chair, Secretary indicated, this was before you September 28th of last year, where we, at the time, applied for a height variance and a density variance. At the night on September 28th, we presented an application for 5-story building with 36 units. That property at the time of the September 28th was in the C1 zone where 4 stories were permitted and a density of 580, hence the need for a D variance. We did file a motion to reconsider because we are aware that the C1 permitted, when the land use ordinance was amended, it permitted a 5-story building, but we still believe that we required maybe short on a density of 2 units. However, the zoning map has changed and the property is now located in the C2, where the minimum lot dwelling per unit is 200 square foot per dwelling, which would there would be no relief requested for any density, and also the permitted height is now 5 stories, 60 feet, where there would be no relief needed for the height variance. So we are asking, based on, I did provide a brief, a motion to reconsider the denial of the density variance and the height variance, and permit the applicant to provide an amended plan so the zoning officer may make a determination where we believe that the planning board rather would have jurisdiction under this application. Based on the new map and the zoning, the applicant would permit it to go up to 50 units as of right, 5 stories and possibly 8 stories and more units because the lot area per dwelling has increased based on the new ordinance.
So you can go ahead, sir.
So, counsel, you have any authority for this request?
We did provide some language in my brief. I did provide a brief. So under Coleman versus Township Council of Isham, the language at the board as a quasi-judicial administrative agency has inherent power to reconsider and revise prior administrative determinations so long as it retains control of proceedings and rights have not vested. And that case law talks about when rights have not vested, the fact that the resolution denying the application has not been adopted. So the board has the authority under that case law and also under Cox to retain jurisdiction. And because there is no density relief where we require zoning board administration. So I'll cite that as 122 NJ Super 7886 Law Division 1973. A copy of my brief was provided to the board attorney and also to the board secretary.
Thank you, counsel. And just to make sure I understand this correctly, what you're in essence asking us to do is to withdraw our previous decision so that you can, because the board, our board no longer has jurisdiction over this.
Yes,
plan.
and
Is that correct?
that's correct. Just in some context on the motion for reconsideration, there was some confusion on the unit sizes, really for the denial. It was a 4, it says 4-5, so there's some question on the voting, but we for short one affirmative vote. And one of the issues was the height itself and also the square footage of the 2 bedrooms, which provided evidence they're in excess of 900 square feet. And I do recall as an attorney, this board always raising the issue that we had to meet HMFA guidelines, which the applicant has done. So again, the request is to vacate the denial to permit the applicant to obtain the amended zone determination and and therefore we believe would be a transfer to the appropriate board.
Right. So I just asked that because it seems different in my mind. There is not really a reconsideration. You're asking us to vacate our decision to allow you to proceed under the new nuzzler, correct?
Yes, and just for purposes of notices, we did have that in alternative language in our notices to the public and to the newspaper in order to vacate the decision to transfer to the planning board.
Thank you. Are there any questions for counsel from the board regarding this matter?
No.
Questions from the board regarding this matter for counsel? Am I correct?
Ms. Juma has her hand.
Her hands raised.
Yeah, I can't see any raised hands. I'm sorry, Ms. Juma.
Good evening, board and Mr. Chair. My question is for the board's attorney.
Well, you can ask it through the chair, Ms. Juma.
Sure.
And
So my
Ramadan
question
Mubarak, by the way.
Thank you, Ramadan Kareem. My question is about the request for the board to vacate their decision based on the application that was before them. I'm curious to know, is that necessary and appropriate if the denial was based on the application before the board? I guess what I'm saying is, would it be more appropriate for the applicant to resubmit their new application with the revisions under this new zoning regulations to receive a new zoning determination? In other words, there will be 2 separate applications and they're not related and unnecessary for the board to vacate their decision.
Well, Ms. Moore, do you have any
I do,
any
'cause
questions and concerns?
I do. Because I spoke with both Mr. Plata about this and also Nadej prior to tonight's meeting. So the motion for reconsider is to reconsider the decision. In order for us to we can't, because there's been a decision already made, that needs to be vacated first before we can make an application to transfer to the planning board. So that needs to be vacated. What we would do is submit an amended zoning analysis, and then Ms. Juma may issue an amended, and then based on other applications, permit the transfer to the planning board. That is my understanding. I spoke to Ms. Klein. There is a case, sorry, just pull up that case that Mr. Pott and I discussed, is that it becomes, I guess Ms. Juma is asking if we have to file an amended application?
No, I'm asking if your new application, if your new submission would be considered a new application. Am I correct? You mentioned that you will make some revisions. In other words, the project is changing.
The project we submitted, so prior to the September 28th, 2023, we provided amended, revised plans, cover letter, outlining those changes. So the project that was presented was a 5-story, 36-unit building. That is what we're asking in order. Now, if the applicant is going to amend that, then he's going to amend that. But right now, the reconsideration is what was presented at the September 28, 23 application. That was for 5 stories with 36 units. The original application was for 41, but that was revised, and we did submit that prior to the 10 days in advance of that September 28th hearing.
And again, I'm cringing at the word reconsideration because I don't think this is a reconsideration. It's a request to vacate and transfer to the planning board. Don't you agree, Ms. Moore?
It is. I think it's a play on words. In a sense, yes. We're asking for you to vacate that denial, and we understand Ms. Juma has to issue an amended zoning determination. I don't think you can unilaterally transfer to the planning board because she has to issue a zoning determination. But yes, that is really the essence of the relief.
Ms. Juma, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board regarding
Yes,
council's Vice Chair Montford?
Yeah, I'm kind of with the zoning officer, Ms. Juma. We've reached our 6 months for this application, am I correct? The 6-month period where they couldn't come back? Now they can come back?
Well, I think what has never happened was there was never a resolution adopted by the board.
So, Commissioner Mumford, we filed this motion to reconsider in November of last year. We're just getting the date. For the time frame, I understand that we could run a substantial modified application, but I think the next day I can tell you as the attorney, I spoke to Mr. Plata about we're filing this, researched the case law, and provided that in a brief. It was only really just me reviewing something at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said, "Oh wow, they changed the map, and now it's in the C2." So the intention was for the reconsideration, and so that notice they put in the alternative because we realized that the map changed at 1 a.m. I understood that C1 now permitted the 5, and that's where the motion for reconsideration came in full, disclosure. But this was filed in November of last year. At that time, we know the board was very lengthy, so we just got the hearing date today.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
Are there any further questions from the board regarding this matter? And I can't see, but if there are no further questions, can I entertain a motion to vacate our prior decision and return this to the zoning officer for possible transmittal to the planning board, if she finds that is appropriate?
Chairman,
Commissioner Comesañas.
my question is, if we don't transfer it to planning and the new ordinances allow this usage, do we even have jurisdiction?
Well, we voted on this case and we denied it. So there is a vote of us denying this. Council now wants this hopefully to be transferred to the planning board, where she says they do have jurisdiction. So in order to do that, the process that is outlined under statute as council sets forth is for us to vacate our prior decision, which was never made part of the final record because we didn't vote on a resolution.
So I understand that, and I think that's clear. I think I have it clearly. But my question is now, if we proceed and we say no, well, we can't turn down based on height and we can't turn down based on density, right? Or we proceed and we say yes. Well, what are we approving stuff that's outside of our jurisdiction? It's like, is there anything that we can do keeping it that we would have jurisdiction over?
I would presume that if we vote no, our council will have to bring a resolution authorizing our acts, authorizing our decision in a resolution, and applicant will then, I'm sure, file an action in the Superior Court. And that question will be fought out there, Commissioner Comesañas.
So I'll make the motion to move it to planning. Is that what we're looking for?
So yeah, I think if you could make a motion to vacate,
yes,
send back to the zoning officer, who may thereafter determine to send this to the planning board.
Yes, I'll make that motion because that seems to be the cleanest way to do it.
We have a motion, Comesañas. May I have a second? Second, I think that was Commissioner Hall. Call the roll, please.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
We couldn't hear you, Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mumford,
Yes.
Chair Juan.
Yes, your application, your request for a vacation, not that kind of vacation, has been approved. Good to see you, Council. Have a good evening.
Have a wonderful evening at the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will now ask the Vice Chair to assume the chair and leave you in his good hands. Thank you.
Enjoy.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes, sir.
You will be assuming the vice chair's position at this time as I become the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, call the next application.
The time is now 6:33 p.m. The next item on tonight's agenda is ZBA 23 32, located at 111 Ferguson Street, Block 1995, Lot 24 in the East Ward. The applicant is Rosalie Cruz Pereira. In the R4 zone, the applicant proposes demolition of existing two-family and construction of a new 3-story two-family dwelling. Applicant is seeking 11 C variances for insufficient lot area per dwelling, insufficient side and rear yard, excessive lot coverage, excessive rear yard impervious cover, insufficient front and rear facade transparency, insufficient parking, insufficient shade trees, and insufficient on-site trees. Site plan approval is not required.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. If there is anyone who is interested in 111 Ferguson Street and you are waiting, please raise your hand so that we can bring you in. If you're on the telephone, press *9 and we will bring you in. Ms. Mahia, could you locate these individuals and bring them into the panel? If you are with the applicant's team, please raise your hand so that we can bring you in to the panel. Thank you. I see one so far. Miguel Martin. Who's the counselor on this application, Ms. Mahia?
It's the validity, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
How are you? Is your team in?
I see my architect. I'm looking for my engineer. Miguel, do you see the engineer?
What's the engineer's name?
Give me 1 second. I gotta get.
No, I don't see him.
While we're waiting, are there any supporters of this application? Please raise your hand. Any supporters of 111 Ferguson Street? Are there any objectors for 111 Ferguson Street? Please raise your hand and we will bring you into the panel. Ms. Mahia, I see none on my end. Do you see any?
I see one raised hand. Screen name Shivani Hurry.
Shivani Harry.
Hello?
Ms. Hurry,
Yes.
are you an objector or supporter of this application?
Objector.
All right, thank you. You're into the panel at this time. Give us a couple of minutes. Do we have the engineer in? Are we gonna have to recall you, counselor?
Mr. Chairman, if you could recall us, because I'm trying to get in touch with him right now.
All right, Ms. Mahia,
Mr. Joe Chinnery?
can you hear me?
Yes.
We're going to recall this application and we're gonna move on to the next application. Ms. Hurry, we're gonna recall this application because the applicant's engineer is not on at this time, and we will call this application after we finish the next one that we're gonna call, if that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Mahia, could you please call the next application on the agenda?
Yes, the time is now 6:38 p.m. The next item on tonight's agenda is ZBA-23-77, located at 153-155 Walnut Street, Block 914, Lot 26 in the East Ward. The applicant is Data Homes LLC. In the MX1 zone, the applicant proposes a 5-story, 18-unit residential building. Applicant is seeking a D5 density variance and C variances for insufficient lot size, insufficient on-site tree, exceeding maximum building coverage by building, exceeding maximum impervious lot coverage, insufficient ground floor transparency, and insufficient off-street parking. Site plan approval is required.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Counsel, are you here?
We're bringing in counsel as we speak
Okay.
to Façade and his team.
Good evening, everyone. This is Matthew Façade, and I'm the attorney for Data Homes.
What board is your team in?
Yes, they are.
All right. Hold on, slow down. We're gonna get there. Are there any supporters of this application, 153-155 Walnut Street? Please raise your hand if you are a supporter of this application so that we can bring you into the panel. There's a Wilmer Aldez with a raised hand. Jugulata.
Oh, that's the client.
Oh,
Yes.
Are there any objectors to this application? Please raise your hand and we will bring you in to the panel. Ms. Bahia, I see 2 raised hands.
Yes, rename Wilmer Aldis. You have to accept the invitation to be promoted to the panelists.
Madam Secretary, is everyone in?
Yes.
All right, before we move forward, I will read the finding of facts. 153-155 Walnut Street. The Board of Adjustment made the following findings of facts with respect to 153-155 Walnut Street, which is located in Newark's Ironbound neighborhood between Walnut Street and McWhorter Street. The total site area is approximately 3,336.37 square feet. The surrounding land use consists primarily of detached 2- and 3-story dwellings and mixed-use buildings. Counselor, you may introduce your application.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here tonight with you all. My name is Matthew Façade. I'm from the law firm Sills, Cummis & Gross, and I represent the applicant, Data Homes, that's here tonight. Data Homes is looking to propose a multifamily project at the subject site. The multifamily project is seeking preliminary and final site plan approval for an 18-unit improvement that will consist of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. Given the density that we are seeking is what triggers the D5 variance, bringing us to this land use board here tonight. But you will hear the testimony from my experts that we absolutely believe that the proposed application is much more consistent with the revised zoning ordinances of this municipality. It also is going to reduce some of the bulk standards that currently exist there today, including impervious and bulk coverage, and adding landscaping to a site that has no landscaping. And also, due to the uptick in zoning for this area, our height is permitted at 5 stories as well. With that being said, we have been in receipt of the municipality's professional reports from planning, engineering, water, and sewer, and we have had a chance to respond to those reports. Most specifically, the engineering report itself had requested a justification for the variance for parking. Specifically speaking, they wanted to know what the analysis was for the general vicinity and whether or not there is actually on-street parking spaces available. And you'll hear testimony from our traffic engineer that we did that study, and there is more than abundance of parking spaces that are available, including during peak time period. With that being said, I'm going to have 4 professional witnesses tonight. I'll lead off with my architect, go to my engineer, traffic engineer, and then I'll wrap it up with my planner, John McDonough, which I'm sure you guys are all very familiar with. Just as a matter of housekeeping, Board Secretary, may you please inform me of how many voting members we have here tonight, since this is obviously the zoning board, and we need 5 affirmative votes if this board were to find in favor of this project.
We have 8 members.
All right, terrific. Thank you so much. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it off to our architect, Cristiano Ferreira, who is the principal.
Not yet, Counselor. Counselor.
Yeah.
All right, so you're only objecting to the professional reports if you have some objections to the engineer's report only?
No, we have no objections to any of them. We submitted a response to the reports itself. For instance, the engineering report had said that it'd be beneficial to have a traffic study, and specifically asked for us to do a study to determine what type of spaces are available during normal hours and during peak hours. We performed that study. The engineering report and plan report also discussed about variances. We addressed those as well. So with that being said, that'll be tied into our testimony, and anything that's not tied into our testimony that we submitted before, we'll address before this board. So no, there is no per se objections to any of the professional reports. We accept them, and we're going to provide the adequate testimony here on the record, hopefully justifying those variances.
So for the record, your applicant is in agreement with the traffic and engineering report and the water and sewer report?
Absolutely, we're going to comply with that and put our reasons for on the record.
Okay, you may call your first professional witness and to be sworn in and affirmed.
Thank you so much. I'd like to call my architect, Cristiano Ferreira of CPA Architecture.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members, professionals.
Ms. Cabela, could you swear him in?
Absolutely. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Perjury?
Yes, I do.
Could you qualify your architect, counsel?
Absolutely. Chris, can you please provide your educational credentials and whether or not your license is still in good standing in the state of New Jersey?
Absolutely. So I have a bachelor's in architecture from our dear NJIT, and I own my business and have had my license for over a decade. I have a license as a professional architect in the states of New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, 7 other states. They're all current and in good standing. I've testified. I don't believe I've testified before your board, but I have testified before the planning board in Newark and various boards throughout the state.
We will accept this Ferreira as a qualified architect. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Were you the architect responsible for drafting the proposed plans here for the subject site?
Yes, I was.
Terrific. Can you walk us through what we're proposing here tonight? And if you may, you'd also sharing your screen so we can see those renderings.
Yes, absolutely. I believe I need some permission here. Oh, yeah, it's there. Okay. Share screen. Just give me a second. Start broadcasting. Okay. Can you please let me know if you're able to see it?
Yes. Could you make it a little bigger for us, please?
Sure. Okay. Okay, so let's start. It is. What I'm sharing are the plans that were recently revised on 4/8/2024 from the original filing date of 8/11/2023. So I'll be testifying and mentioning the sheets that I'm testifying to, and then I can zoom in, zoom out. I try not to do that too much because I know it gives people headaches and nausea. So I'll try to keep it as consistent as I can here. So the project, as mentioned by Mr. Façade, is located at 153 Walnut Street. It is a corner piece, and it's a corner. It's the northwestern corner of Walnut and McCarter Street. And the intent of the project, as you see from these initial renderings here, was to really embrace the corner in a way that it referenced the typologies that we see on the building typologies that we see on both streets, right? With Walnut having a more residential section of homes with stoops and residential on the ground floor, and then on McCarter, especially as you go towards the train station, having taller buildings with a more contemporary architecture. So the idea here was to kind of take this corner and make that transition by instead of providing a commercial use on the ground floor, by providing residential use, but in so doing it in a way that it references those stoops, right, and elevating those two residential units that we have on the ground floor, up from the street, creating those stoops and allowing those two residential units on that floor to have access directly to the street through those stoops, or to access the building through, or to access their units through the building main entrance, much like a more contemporary and multifamily building would. And that's what you see in these renderings. I do have an animation, and it's a very short animation, but I think it really helps. It would help the board better understand the mass of the building and how the building relates to the corner. If the board doesn't object, I'd like to just play that quickly and talk through the building mass and building height and how it relates to the corner, and then we can briefly speak about the plans. Is that okay for me to share that?
We'll see.
Thank you. So let me open this. As I was mentioning, the corner, you see the stoops, and then you see at the center, as we pass through here, the main building lobby. You see these vertical louvers and these, walnut-looking panels that we have, porcelain panels that we have on the lower floor. And you see the stoop on both sides of that main entrance, right, that funnels into the building entrance, the proper building entrance. And as we turn around on the corner, you see how we set the building back on that lower floor with the stair exit on the left side here. You see the door, and then that setback on that lower floor with some landscaping, sort of transitioning that public realm to the residential realm as the building gets elevated, and you have that stoop. And I'll just return back here a little bit just to pause on this for a minute. As you see that corner there with the stoops, stoop giving you access to that first residential floor, like 4 steps up from the street level. Again, promoting that transition and a little more privacy. And the other thing that you see, and we'll speak a little bit more about this when we talk about the elevations. That's why you don't see a lot of glazing, perceived glazing here on the ground floor. But we do have those large windows on the corners, and this vertical louver system that we have here, where the 155 number is located, that is an additional measure to, again, create some of that privacy for those residential units on this ground floor by creating these louvers. And we do have glazing behind that. It's just that you don't see it from this elevation. That's the intent, right? Allow a residential use down here and still creating that little separation between them and the street. So I'm going to go back to my set and plans so that we can zoom through those. So you saw the rendering, the three views that I have here were screenshots from that rendering. So you see the one image on top with the stoop, located here on the, let me get a pen, with the one stoop on either side of that main entrance that leads you into the lobby. And as you see on the lower floor here, again, that corner that's set back, better seen here, that corner that's set back for a little landscaping to break up that corner a little bit and soften and help with that transition from that, commercial or the pedestrian to the residential use. We'll talk a little bit more when I'm discussing the elevations about materials, but I wanted to give you a better understanding of the building and the massing. The building is a 5-story structure is what we're proposing, with two residential units on the ground floor. And then we have 4 residential floors above that with 4 units per floor for a total of 18 units. So just to give some additional building information, the site is about 35 by 95 foot lot, 18 residential units, as I mentioned. 10 of those are 1-bedrooms, 8 2-bedroom units. We have some bicycle storage. We're going to go through the floor plans. We have a space for garbage and refusal and recycle. And then we're going to be discussing how the building, what the circulation is on the floors and the typical floors, and then what we're doing on the upper floor, which is the roof. So to zoom in here, let's just start with the ground floor, which is, and I know it might be a little small for you all to see, but what I'm circling here in red, is that okay? Can you see?
You have to give us some better view than this right now, because my eyes are all over the place.
Okay. And I can't zoom in too much more just because, let's see what I could do. Yeah, I can't rotate this PDF. So we're going to, try to explain to the best I can here. So the plan on the left is the ground floor, and then we have a typical floor is the second plan, and then the roof plan on the right. So let's just start with the ground floor plan so that we can understand how the building works. The upper left corner of the building is where we have that planting area that I showed before. That's the corner, right? The corner of McWhorter and Walnut. The center of the building is where, if you live in the building, you would come in. That's that entrance that I showed on the rendering, right in the middle of the building. So you have access to the building. You have your mail and your package space here. A few steps going up to the elevator that's located right in front of you. And then we have an access to 2 sets of stairs, one on either side. We also have a ramp for our ADA access on this ground floor. Even though we have an elevator, the elevator is right located at that upper section of the building. As I mentioned, we raised this floor a little to provide some privacy between the residential and the pedestrians on the ground floor. And then, that lobby or that core of the building is flanked by 2 residential units, 2 1-bedroom units, one on the top, one at the bottom. Looking at the top, we have a utility room, which is not defined yet, but most likely going to be our sprinkler water meter room. And then at the bottom, and I will zoom in here just so we have a little more clarity. Oh, apologize. We have an additional utility room here at the bottom of the screen, which will be likely our electrical room. And then we have a room for storage of 2 containers. One will be recycling and one for regular garbage. And these are accessed through a corridor between the face of our building and the adjacent property of 5 foot 1 inches. And that would allow proper, removal and storage of those containers during the pickup days. So the intent is for those to be stored within this room. There will be a garage door that will seal them off, and the tenants will be able to bring down their garbages and dispose them, and as well as building management to dispose of the garbage and then take them out during pickup day.
And Fred, real quick on that note, the refuse itself is being handled by a private hauler, correct?
That is correct. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. And then, as I mentioned before, zooming in into this 1-bedroom, which is a mirror on the other side, we have access from the street through those stoops to a door that leads you right into the living room, dining room, kitchen area, right? And then your bedroom area is to the side, and then you have your bathroom. And then you also have access directly into the main lobby of the building, as I mentioned. So you can access your unit from within the building. If you want to come in and get your mail first and then walk up and go to your unit, or you can access it directly from the street. So, creating that, typology that I was mentioning before that you see in both Walnut and McCarter. And then, the same layout applies to the unit on the top with access from the street, also access from within the building. We also have some bicycle storages here on this floor, as well as a common laundry space with 2 washers and 2 dryers on this floor here as well. And then as we move up to the upper floors, this is what we're calling our typical floor. It's 4 floors of the exact same layout. And let's just start from the center here. You take your elevator, you come up. There's a set of stairs to the north, one to the south, and then you have the 4 entrances to the 4 apartments. So the 2 apartments in the center are the 1-bedroom units, and the 2 units on either side at the corner and at the bottom here are our 2-bedroom units. The unit layouts are very standard. The 2-bedroom, bedroom with the living room, dining room and the kitchen space, a washer and dryer here, the master or the primary bedroom having closets and a bathroom, and then the secondary bathroom being the ADA compliant bathroom and bedroom on the side here. So that repeats on the top here as well at the corner. So very similar layout to the 2-bedroom. And then looking at the layout for the 1-bedroom, your entrance, your walk-in closet, ADA compliant bathroom, and then you have your dining space, living space, kitchen with the bedroom and closet space. So that's our typical floor, again, being repeated 4 stories. So that would be your 16 units, and then the 2 units on the ground floor for the 18. And then,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
This is Gerard Hazel, board planner. Can you tell us what the date of these plans are?
Oh, sure. So the plans were originally dated 8/11, and they were further revised for 8/2024.
Okay.
Revision number 2.
Plans that I believe the board has are the 3/11 ones, so that these what you're showing here is updated from that. So, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if this should just be considered exhibits or whatever.
Yep. Mr. Posada,
As an exhibit, each sheet. Mr. Board Chairman, we cannot hear you.
Were these plans submitted to the board secretary?
No, not these revised plans that we have here. These revised are in response of the engineering plans.
So we will begin to mark this as Exhibit A.
Great.
1.
Fantastic.
Yeah, can the animation also be marked into the record?
Yes.
Perfect. So animation will be A1.
Animation will be Exhibit A1. The next part will be A2.
And just for clarification purposes, are we going to have each sheet be its own exhibit, or do you want to just do the revised packet itself as A2?
Well, as we go, if he's presenting individually, each sheet is going to have to be his own Exhibit A, unless it's part of the package.
Terrific. So just for clarification purposes, the A1 will be the videography that was originally proposed to this and shown to this board. And then A2 will be this floor plan, and we'll move from here.
Correct.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing that up. So continuing with the roof plan, we're proposing the use of photovoltaic panels, solar panels for generation of electricity here, as well as a smaller space at the center of the roof for some of the mechanical equipment, such as the condensers for the common area spaces, which shouldn't be many for a small building of this size. And then we are proposing the 1 stair shaft on the south to be brought up all the way up to the roof, so that we have easy access to maintain any equipment up here, rather than using a hatch or different means of access. That was our A100 sheet. I will be referring to the A200 sheet now, which the revisions essentially were indicating the percentage of opening on the facade.
But Chris, before you move forward, we're going to enter this sheet as A3. This A3 sheet shows the elevations.
Okay. So A3. So let's discuss the elevations. You saw the renderings and you saw, the animation. I think it gives you a much better understanding of the volume of the building. But what you see here is a two-dimensional depiction of that. And we can speak a little bit about materials and also the amount of glazing, which is a variance that was noted by the planner and the engineer. And I think, when we look at an elevation like this, being a residential building, you can clearly see we're providing and proposing a lot of glazing, especially on the ground floor. And as I mentioned, we do have glazing behind these vertical louvers, but you don't really see that, through these depictions. But, it is there. It is a bedroom, and we wanted to make sure that there was a little more privacy there from the street realm. So although, we're not meeting the 50%, I think, a look at this elevation, one can clearly see that there is a lot of glaze for a residential use, especially on the upper floors where we have, essentially floor to ceiling glazing, with the, P-TEC grills, breaking, that, glass volume here and there. But we do have a lot of glazing. And I think for a use like this, it's our opinion that, this is certainly sufficient to address a building and openings on this facade. As we move out to the north elevation, which is the elevation facing Walnut, you can also see here. I'm sorry, this is the elevation between our building and the adjacent building on McCarter. So again, we have a lot of glazing here. We have a 5'1" separation, so we're able to maximize that, what the code allows us to do. And we have, quite a bit of glazing here, as well as you see the exit door from the stair shaft, as well as the access to the garbage room and to that mechanical room that we have on the corner there that I mentioned before. Going over to our A201, and I'm guessing I'm marking this A4.
Yeah, A4.
Okay. So in our A4, we have the one elevation, which is the west. That is an elevation that's right on the property line. And that's why we have no elevation, no openings, right? It is the stair and the elevator shaft, and it's right on the property line. So we're not able to provide any window or opening, building code wise. And finally, our elevation at Walnut, that you can see, similar to the other facade I just discussed, the access from the stairs, the windows to that ground floor unit, and then all the windows that we have on the upper floors for the apartments. I also have here in the sheet just a small detail for the bicycle storage. I believe I mentioned that when I discussed the ground floor, but these are stackers, so you can stack 4 bikes, 2 above, 2 below, so that the tenants could store their bikes within the building, secure and not needing to store them outside. So that concludes my testimony and all the sheets that we have prepared before you. Again, I believe that the building and the way that he addresses the corner, the way we set it back, the way we raise it and created the stoops, it really brings a lot of the elements that you see in the neighborhood. And then as we transition to McCarter and what's happening along that street, as you go, towards the train station, having something a little more contemporary that brings that language that you see now prevailing along that artery. So, Ms. Pizzato, that's what I have.
Terrific. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you, Counselor. Now we will ask, are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Commissioner Correa.
Yes, Mr. Pereira. Just clarify, A100, can you repeat the square footage of the 1 bedroom on the first floor and the second floor?
Yeah, sure. So the one bedroom on the one bedrooms on the ground floor, they are the unit on the north is 976 square feet, and the one bedroom on the south of the page is 855 square feet. And on the upper floors, one bedrooms are 490 square feet, and the two bedrooms are 781 square feet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coburn, are you done at this moment?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ribeiro.
The one bedrooms on the second floor and up, do they have any laundry room?
The one bedrooms don't, and that's why we provided a common laundry room on the ground floor. You know, the unit, it's more of an efficiency unit, as you see. And the idea here was, you know, provide some additional closet space. We have that ADA space. So we decided not to do that and to provide a common laundry room on the ground floor for the one bedroom.
Just a question here. I don't know if you know the answer. How many units are you guys allowed to build?
Yeah, so we have a planner, and I believe our planner will be discussing that in terms of code. But because we're referencing one code, I can reference your planner's letter.
We're develop up to 9 units. We're proposing 18.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Ribeiro, is that it?
Yes, that'll be all. Thank you.
Are there any questions from our professionals? Any questions from the planner, Mr. Hazel? Traficante? Any questions? I see you, Mr. Zakowski, Commissioner Zakowski. All right, Commissioner Zakowski?
Yes, I want to ask about the laundry. The second floor, the other floors, do they have laundry also on each unit?
Yes. So the only units that don't have a laundry, a washer and dryer are the one bedrooms. The two bedrooms, all of them have a laundry, washer and dryer. The one bedrooms are the ones that are not equipped with those.
Even the one bedrooms that are up on the other floors, the upper floor.
Yeah, the upper floor one bedrooms don't have it. Neither do the larger one bedrooms on the ground floor. Those do not have a laundry unit.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now we will take questions from the public. Your question has to be towards the architect's testimony only. This is not the time to give statements. This is the time to only ask questions in reference to what the architect has discussed. Claude Desir?
Yes, hello. I am curious to what you were mentioning about the way that you're fitting it into the community and like in reflection of the communities. You did mention that this does look very obviously bigger than the rest of the buildings surrounding it. So I'm curious in a couple of ways in the sense of one, what was the decision, what was the thought process behind the decision of having that particular set amount of one bedroom and two bedrooms? And I'm also curious to the solar aspect of this, which I'm really happy to see. That's cool. I don't think I've seen that in too many buildings, but what part of the electricity would that be contributing to? And then I'm also curious as to the actual design of it itself. Is this a contemporary style you had mentioned? Is that what you were saying?
Right.
Sorry, it was a lot of questions.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So I counted 3. So let me try to address one at a time.
Real quick, if I may intervene.
Really quick.
Because the first 2 questions are more legal or should I say, a reflection of what the applicant was doing. Then I'll hand it over to you, Chris, real quick. The building design itself is a reflection of what the change of the zoning ordinances are for the municipality. The municipality had an uptick, which essentially allowed for larger buildings, the best way I could put it, to some extent, changing the definition of low rise, also changing the definition of what would be a permitted height. whereas before it was 4 stories and now it's 5 stories. So what we did was, for all the obvious reasons, we increased it to the maximum of what is permitted within the new zoning regulations. And when doing so, that brought us up to the unit count of 18 units. This developer, this is their first project they're doing in the city of Newark. And like any other project that's a new project in the municipality, you want to get off on the right foot. So pursuant to my recommendation to them, I did advise them that it is a big push for the municipality to bring in more affordable housing units. So us doing
you in, Council?
What's that?
I'm about to swear you in because you testified.
No, the only thing, I'm giving background as to why we've got to this point. So the reason why we're proposing 5 stories instead of 4 stories is because that 5th story allows us to do 4 units, 4 additional units. And those 4 additional units would be our requirement once we pass 15 units. So it was a kind of a blending of maximize what we can develop, but more importantly, to show that this is a developer who is looking to get interwoven within the municipality, be part of the fabric, and fit the agenda of the administration by providing more affordable housing.
Mr. Pereira?
Okay, and then segueing into that, thank you, Mrs. Posada. Just talking about the PV system. So this is a building that would likely allow a system that would generate enough power to run the common areas of the building. So you're talking about lighting for the common areas, the elevator. So it's a small system on the roof. You wouldn't be able to generate enough power here to power the units themselves, but you would, allow the developer would be able to generate enough power here to run the electrical power needs of the building common areas, heating, cooling, lighting, elevators.
Mr. Sear, are you done with your questions for the architect?
I just had that last question about the choosing of the styling, what the style would describe this as.
Yeah, sure. I believe our planner has a couple of pictures of the neighborhood, and there's actually a building right across the street that was recently built that has a very similar style to this, right? Very clean lines with the white facade, clean lines. And what I was mentioning before is as you turn into Walnut, you have a few more homes that have the stoops, and then they have, right, is more of a residential setting where we're trying to bring the same setup here into this building where, we have the stoops on the ground floor, and we have units accessing the street front from within the units directly out. So that is like the merger of the two since the building is at the corner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Mr. Hazel?
Yes, sir. If I may, I didn't pose this question before because I didn't think it was appropriate to the architect, probably more so for the planner. But since Mr. Posada sort of opened the door, I guess I'll walk in. You'd indicated that the member of the public had just asked about why the building was this size, etc., and how it fit in with the neighborhood. And you indicated that the area was, the zoning for the area had changed, and that low-rise, for instance, now is allowed to be 5 stories and not 4 stories. But along with those changes went changes in the permitted density as well. It was not an either or. While you are allowed to go up to 5 stories, the density is also adjusted accordingly, so that while you go up to the 5 stories, that extra floor you have, that you said you could put the 4 additional units in, and so that is not contemplated as part of the change. Part of the change is 5 stories with a maximum density of 375. It's not 5 stories and whatever else you could stick up there. The 375 is what is permitted under the revised ordinance, the same revision that took you up to 5 stories, and your density is 187 square feet per unit, which is substantially less than what is permitted. And I might add that one of the ways in which this additional density is accommodated, beyond having the extra floors you mentioned, is by having units that are relatively small in size. So I think that needs to be understood in response to Mr. Posada's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel, for pointing that out. Are there any further questions for the architect from the board or the professional planners? You may call your next professional.
Wait, I see some hands that are being.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's our board, our famous board engineer, Mr. Traficante.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You may ask your question, Mr. Traficante.
Do I need to be sworn in?
To ask a question? No.
Oh, okay. I guess quick question. Why wasn't any on-site parking provided?
Ms. Façade, I believe mentioned we do have a traffic consultant that will be speaking to that. So I'll leave that to him to address. Mm-hmm.
Next question. Was there any thought? I mean, it's the white elephant in the room. Is there any thought been given to providing washers and dryers in every unit, not just the two bedroom? I mean,
yes, we did. We did, and you know, as mentioned, they are more of an efficiency unit on the one bedrooms, and the initial idea was to allow more space for the residents by providing a common area for the one bedrooms to have the laundries on the ground floor. But it's certainly something we could discuss with the board and address if it's a major concern and provide them within the units.
So there is room to accommodate a washer and dryer in every unit if need be?
Yes, I'm sure we could do that.
Again, for now, last question. Was it an issue with the height? But is there any amenities on the roof, like a green roof or a place for people to go, or was that an issue with the height?
No, it wasn't much of an issue with the height. It was really a decision between, if we bring people up into the roof, we would certainly reduce the amount of solar panels that we could fit. We thought it was a better fit for a smaller building like this to, instead of having an amenity space on the roof, to have the solar system installed, and it was just a choice.
Both of my phones about that.
Right. Well, was there a generator or something proposed on the roof?
We don't have a generator right now. The building is 5 stories. We're not showing it, but we doing construction documents. It's likely that we would choose to do a generator because of the number of stories. But it's right now we are not proposing that. We do show an area for mechanical equipment on the roof, so a mechanical pad. So that could certainly house a generator and the 2 condensers we're going to have for this building.
Well, no, what I was getting at was if you needed a generator, if that was something like in the basement and then the space on the roof, if it was originally intended for something like a generator, that could be set aside as an open space. Spitballing, thinking offhand.
Yeah.
Right. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Traficante. Commissioner Hall.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. In our planner's report, he mentioned he felt that the bedroom sizes were relatively small. Are you comfortable with the sizes of these apartments, the 1 bedroom and a 2 bedroom?
Sorry, the question was to me? I'm sorry, I had okay. About the size of the bedrooms.
Our plan they were small, relatively small. You see New Jersey housing report, and
correct.
Your thoughts on it?
Yes, I did see the note on the report, and as initially mentioned, the idea for this building was to work on units that were more, because of a lower square footage, a little more affordable. As we all know, right, there's a cost, the construction versus a cost of where you can rent. So the idea was for a more efficient unit type, both on the 1 and the 2 bedrooms, generating a smaller footprint and maybe a more affordable rent. But that's why we have the smaller units here.
I mean, but to go from with the recommendation of 600 to 490, that's a big jump and very little living space.
Understood.
I
Yeah,
would
we,
imagine.
we did consider making those just efficiency units, right? Removing that wall and just creating one larger space, a studio, if you will. But we felt that the way the unit laid out, because we had the width and the window space, we could accommodate a wall separating the sleeping room, if you will, to the common areas of the apartment. The living room, dining, and kitchen. And that's why we decided to do that, just because we had the width. A lot of times in studios, you only have 16 feet, 18 feet, but they're long. In this case, they were narrow because of the lot being narrow, and we had the window space. So we decided on doing that. But I guess we could look at it as an efficiency unit.
Mr. Chair, would you mind if Mr. Hazel comes on and gives some thoughts in regards to the size of these bedrooms?
Board planner, Mr. Hazel.
Yes.
Commissioner Hall would like some determination about the size, square footage of the bedrooms.
Yeah, definitely. My sense is that again, as you see in my report, my opinion is that some of these units should be eliminated, and the resultant space applied to increasing the sizes of the smaller ones. I mean, some of these, like the one bedrooms that are 490, those are even smaller than the recommended sizes based on the HMFA, New Jersey HMFA standard. Those are even smaller than studios. So those are just, not, in my opinion, not habitable as a one bedroom, much less, not even as a studio, much less a one bedroom. So yes, I think that those smaller one bedrooms that are like 490 and that range should be eliminated, so that some of them should be eliminated so that some of the remaining units can be enlarged.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel. Commissioner Hall?
Thank you.
Commissioner Hall?
I would yield back to the architect or even council. If they have any thoughts, or would they be willing to eliminate some of the apartments?
In full disclosure, we are open to having a complete dialogue. You guys are the constituents that make up the board and are charged and responsible representing the community and the municipality. So yes, we're absolutely open to hearing as much feedback as possible. I can lead off by telling you that I understand the concern is a washer and dryer in every unit. And I can say right off the bat that yes, we will agree to comply to include a washer and dryer in every unit. I really want to.
Yeah. Should we go off the record for 5 minutes so you can talk to your applicant and make a decision about the reduction of apartments and also adding washers and dryers to every apartment?
That sounds like a wonderful idea.
Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll be back.
All right.
At 7:31.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
The time is now 7:30. Everyone, could you be making your way back to the meeting? All commissioners present. Time is now 7:31. Madam Secretary, we can go back on the
Recording in progress.
counselor. You here?
I'm bringing him back in.
He just totally got out, huh?
We were talking on the phone. I think you got disconnected.
Counselor, you here with us?
Yes, Board Chairman. So first of all, thank you so much for the suggestion to reconvene. We did reconvene. We hear the comments of the board loud and clearly. So our essential theme now is just yes. So what we're proposing here, I'm going to turn it back to Chris in a moment, is we're proposing to reduce the density from 18 down to 14. And in doing so, we see in the planning report done by Mr. Hazel that it says HMFA suggests 600 for one bedroom and 850 for two bedroom. So our new proposed square footage for one bedroom and two bedrooms will exceed both of the suggestions for minimums from HMFA. So what we will now be proposing is 14 units, where our one bedroom units will be at a minimum 650 square feet, and our two bedrooms will be a minimum of 950 square feet. In addition, like I said before, all units will have washer and dryers, but I know before I tried testifying, so let me stop right there and turn it back to Chris to talk to you more in detail about what we're proposing.
Before you turn it back to Chris, it's fair to say that these plans will have to be redone.
Absolutely. We would have to resubmit them to have reviewed by your professionals.
Okay. Chris, when you come back on, state your name and your title for the record.
Chris Pereira, CPR architect. Yeah, so I really don't have much to add to Mr. Posada. We did look, if we remove one of those units per floor, it's about 500 square feet. We're splitting that between 3 units on the floor. So that 160, 170 square feet can now be split, into each one of those apartments. So those minimum square footage mentioned by Mr. Posada are correct. And at that point, we're certainly able to provide a washer and dryer in every unit very easily. And then you have very nicely sized units for this building.
So Chris, just to reiterate, just to confirm, the new proposed plans, which we would submit, would show one bedrooms with a minimum square footage of 650 square feet.
That's correct.
Bedrooms with approximately 950 square feet. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And there will be...
We'll have a washer and dryer within the unit itself.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Ms. Pereira.
Thank you. Great suggestion.
Commissioner Hall, is that an old hand?
It's an old hand. I'm trying to put it down.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. I see we're going to move to, I don't know if this is a Mr. or Mrs. Aldez.
Yes, this is Mr. Aldez. I'm the landlord right next to 151 Walnut Street. And when they, only what I'm looking for probably is for Mr. Posada. I need to get an insurance bounder because to my property start falling those bricks, and it start causing a little kind of damage on top of my roof. I don't know if they could do anything about it because I mentioned that already a long time ago and they still didn't take care of it.
Is this a question for the architect, sir? Or
Yes.
something you guys could talk offline about?
This is a question when they start doing the building. So what I need is the insurance bounder for my property.
Yes, I can confirm and state on the record that when we do construct this property itself, we'll be in compliance with all state mandates, which include being insured and having the construction plans reviewed and approved by the municipality, ensuring that there would be no issues associated with any of the off-site improvements, including your parcel.
Okay, that's it. That was the only thing what I was
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Hearing no further questions. I'm sorry, Mr. Commissariat. I'm sorry, Commissioner Commissariat.
Can we make sure that that gentleman can contact the attorney if he has if he has questions?
My next line, Commissioner. I was about to say the public notice that you have has my phone number on there, so feel free to reach
So
out.
if you could just put it in the chat for everyone that's interested in this application, and he can pull it out of the chat also.
Absolutely.
Once you do that, you can call your next professional.
Sure.
As Mr. Façade is typing, I want to thank the board and professionals. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, I just put both my office line and my cell phone in the group chat, so call me whenever you want.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure. All right, so per the direction of the board chairman, I'd like to call my next witness, my engineer, Mr. Khan.
Counsel, could you swear him in?
Absolutely. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Qualify your engineer.
Thank you so much. Mr. Khan, can you please state your full name for the record? Also state your educational background and whether or not your license is in good standing in the state of New Jersey.
Adnan Khan, AWZ Engineering. I'm the project engineer. I have testified in front of this board and over hundreds of boards several times. So testified in federal court, superior court as an expert witness. I'm a professional engineer in New Jersey, got my bachelor's and master's from NGIT. Doing this for close to 32, 33 years now.
Is your license current, Mr. Khan?
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Khan has testified before this board before we accept him as an engineer.
Thank you so much. Mr. Khan, was your professional group responsible for drafting the proposed civil plans that are here before this board today?
Yes, we did.
Terrific. Can you please walk us through what we're proposing here from a civil perspective?
Okay, I believe everybody can see the plans. I just put it on the screen.
Yeah. And just to get ahead of the curve real quick, these plans that you are sharing with us, were they part of the submission package or were they revised of a more recent date?
They are the exact same copies that were submitted to the board, to the town, to the city.
Just for housekeeping purposes, these exhibits will not be marked. They're already part of the file itself with City Hall.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I will start with the existing conditions. Again, as you have heard several times, the site is a corner property at the intersection of Walnut and McWhorter Street. It's a 3-story brick building, which occupies almost, I would say 99.82%. So almost 100% site is covered by the building. We have there are some, it's pretty flat as far as the site is concerned. And as I'm going to testify, I'm also going to touch a couple of comments in the engineering report so that things get a little bit clear. There are some comments about the encroachment on the property, specifically this chimney that is on the adjacent lot. Again, this chimney is not part of our project site or of the existing building. It is on the next door 3-story building. So there are some comments about the Belco doors, the grates on the sidewalk and the right of way. Again, as far as I know, I'm not aware of any easements or any kind of approvals from the city for these encroachments that are existing on the property. However, based on the proposed project, all these issues will be taken care of because these doors, these grates will be reworked, and all these any encroachment within the right of way of both McWhorter Street and Walnut Street will be removed. Okay, going to our site plan. As you heard, the applicant is proposing a 5-story building. The ground floor will have, as Mr. Pereira explained in detail, the footprint and the floor plan of the building. I'm just going to touch on the site elements. We are reducing the impervious coverage, I would say less than 10% to 90 point some, I think 32% from 99.82. So it's about a little less than 10% that we are reducing the impervious coverage and converting into green spaces and providing some landscaping to enhance the look of the property. As I think Mr. Pereira also touched, like we are proposing some landscaping along the intersection of Walnut and Makewater, and then again we have some landscaping of shrubs along Makewater by the log or the stoop for the one bedroom for the bedrooms on the first floor. In addition to that, the applicant is also proposing 4 shade trees, actually 4 shade trees, 3 along Makewater Street and 1 on Walnut Street. And again, these shade trees will have city standard grades that are required. So that part will be taken care of, as well as we will be proposing new curb along both the streets as well as the sidewalks in front of the property within the right of way. Okay, moving to our drainage and utility plan, as I mentioned that even though we are reducing the impervious coverage of the site, we are still providing a stormwater detention basin. And the way the system is designed, again, is designed per the City of Newark requirements. And the way the system works is like it will collect all the water from the roof of the building and direct the water into our detention basin, which will, through an outlet control structure, will regulate the water into the municipal system on Makewater Street. In addition, we are also proposing new utilities for the proposed building. Here, I just also want to touch on the engineering report and utility report. Most of the comments that are in the engineering report, I would say quite a few of them are already incorporated into our plans. But any other comments that are left, we don't have any objection as far as complying with those comments and working with the city engineer and utility department to comply with those requirements if the board deems this application approved. Okay, then we also have a lighting plan. Again, the idea here is, again, we are proposing decorative lighting along the facade of the property, along Walnut and Makewater, as well as to the rear of the building. Again, in the engineering report, there are some comments as to the requirement for the foot candle or illumination levels. We will take a look at it and we will comply with the city requirements as much. We will basically comply with the requirements as stated in the engineering report. Rest of the sheets I have are typical, construction details and soil erosion. So that is pretty much my direct testimony, and I'll take any questions. The board has any questions?
Mr. Khan, real quick, I just have a few questions for you, just to clarify. I believe it was part of your testimony here tonight that while our building coverage and our lot coverage exceeds what is permitted, it is actually a reduction of what is there currently today. Is that correct?
That is correct. Just to stipulate, like the requirement is 60%. Currently, it's 99.8%. And we are reducing it to 90.20%. Though it's still it's a variance, but it's a reduction of close to a little less than 10% from existing.
And I just have one more question for you real quick. My last question I have for you is that there is no per se stormwater management system on site, so this would be a substantial improvement to help with the runoff. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, there is no existing stormwater management on the property.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Traficante.
Yes. Do I still?
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead. State your name and your position.
My name is Charles Traficante. I'm a principal engineer and a professional engineer. I'm in employment at the City of Newark, Department of Engineering. My license is active and in good standing with the State Board.
You may ask your question, Mr. Trafficant.
Mr. Khan, in the engineer's report to the zoning board dated April 2nd, on page 2, starts on the bottom of page 2, item 3, Roman numeral 2. Survey indicates an existing oil fill valve located within a public right-of-way from McWhorter Street and in front of the subject lot. Applicant property owner shall provide testimony to the board as to whether or not this oil fill valve is for an existing underground oil storage tank that provides heat to the existing building that is to be demolished, and if so, what approvals, easements exist from the city of Newark granting permission to the current property owners of subject lot 26, block 914, to allow them to have an oil storage tank within a public right of way from McWhorter Street. Should none exist, the engineering department recommends to the board that as a condition of approval, the applicant property owner of subject lot 26 be required to move the existing underground oil storage tank and all of its appurtenances and provide site abatement, soil remediation should the existing subsurface condition require it. Can you address that, Mr. Khan?
Sure, that is the plan. Like any underground tanks and any associated appurtenances to that will be taken out according to the applicable regulations, both the city, state, and county, and will be disposed of accordingly.
And soil abatement, if needed, will be provided, site remediation?
That is correct, yes.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
And on behalf of the applicant, I can say you agree to comply as a condition of approval.
Thank you, Mr. Trafficante. Are there any questions for the board for the engineer? Seeing none. Mr. Khan, is there a way to get another tree on the other side of that? We got 3 on one, I think 3 on the Walnut side and only 1 on McWhorter.
We can squeeze one more, but the spacing would be, we have to, compact them a little bit. Like we have room, we don't want to put it necessarily in the corner. However, we can, because these trees will be limbed up to 7 feet. So if the board desire, we can rearrange a little bit the spacing of the trees and maybe add another one close to the intersection.
I don't want it impeding sight.
I would say, because again, like as I mentioned, like again, the way we are proposing these trees will be limbed up to 7 feet, which is pretty much clear any site issues or site triangle issues, because it's not going to be like the limbs will be brushing the sidewalk or anything like that. So if the board decides, yeah, we can add one more, but
if you can do so, if not, we understand.
Yeah, we will try, definitely.
Are there any questions from the public for the site engineer, civil engineer, Mr. Khan? I do not see any other hands at this time. Mr. Masada, you may call your next professional.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, all. I'd like to call my next professional, my traffic engineer, Connor from Dynamic Engineering. Right there, Mr.
Hand, so you can be sworn in. Counselor?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Good evening, Hughes. Can you do us all a favor and please present your educational credentials and also whether or not your license is currently in good standing?
Certainly. So my professional engineering license is in good standing in the state of New Jersey. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering from NJIT in 2017. I prepared hundreds of traffic impact studies since that time in the past 7 years for various uses, numerous residential developments throughout Newark. I've testified at this board numerous times and been accepted as an expert witness, as well as other cities and towns throughout the state.
Terrific.
We'll accept Mr. Hughes as a traffic engineer.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes, in response to the municipality's engineering report inquiring about a parking study, did your firm conduct that study itself to address the concerns of the municipality?
Yes, we did.
And did your study and result in the determination that this proposed development could be accommodated within the general vicinity?
Certainly. So as mentioned, we did prepare a traffic and parking study that's dated April 10th, 2024, in response to the engineering letter requesting the various parking counts and to determine the availability of on-street parking in the area. So that was the main basis of our report, was to analyze the surrounding streets and to determine the available street spaces. So we did perform those traffic counts in accordance with the city requirements on 2 weekdays, Tuesday, March 26th and Wednesday, March 27th, from 7 to 10 in the morning and 6 to 11 at night. Saturday, April 6th, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, April 7th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Again, that's in accordance with the times that are required by Newark. So we looked at those within a 500-foot radius of the site, within a reasonable walking distance. I do note that the requirement is for the city to look at within 300 feet. We expanded that to 500 because, again, we still determine that to be a reasonable walking distance in the sense that ITE actually looks at a radius of a half a mile as an influence area for mass transit, indicating that people are essentially willing to walk that far. The city has its own requirement that within 1,200 feet of rail transit, no parking is required. So that 500 feet we feel is it's well within reason to be determined as a reasonable walking distance. So within that 500 feet, we looked at the available parking spaces and found an average of 17 throughout the course of our accounts. But most importantly, during the peak residential period, during those overnight hours, we found 23 spaces. With the 14 units now being proposed and a city requirement of 1 per unit, that requires 14 spaces. So those 23 spaces provide more than enough availability to support the parking. And just in terms of some other factors as well, we looked at census data for the area, specifically with respect to the vehicle occupancy per unit, which we found was less than 1 per unit at 0.73. That equates to 10 spaces for the 14 units. We also looked at national ITE data for similar uses, particularly within urban areas such as this, and found that they project a requirement of 8 spaces. So again, those on-street spaces that we found during the peak residential times, the 23 spaces, are more than sufficient to help support the parking demands of the project. And these parking demands are going to be lowered, again, due to the urban environment, due to the fact that we're near numerous mass transit options. There's, I think, 19 New Jersey bus transit lines in the area. There's a bus station on the opposite corner of the site, the southeast corner of Walnut and McWhorter. There's also Penn Station located about half a mile away, well within walking distance, that provides obviously ample services such as the PATH in New York City, other NJ transit lines. So we feel that with those factors, and combined with the fact that with no on-site parking provided, it's going to essentially attract tenants that may not have a car, that may not necessarily need those parking spaces. So just with those factors involved, again, we feel that those on-street parking spaces that we found will be sufficient to support the project. And that's essentially the gist of our report, but if there's any more specific questions, I'll be happy to answer.
And just to confirm, Mr. Hughes, those time intervals where your professional team went out there to do the studies, both on the weekday and the weekend, was consistent with those proposed and recommended time intervals from this board's engineer, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So that there was adequate parking that was available, especially considering the fact that we reduced the density from 18 to 14?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, our report was actually based on the 18 units, so essentially our report is now a little bit conservative. So certainly it can accommodate the 14 units.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Trafficante.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hughes.
Name for the record.
Oh, Charles Trafficante, Principal Engineer, Special Engineer, City of Newark, Department of Engineering.
Ask your question.
Mr. Hughes, your parking study, which, by the way, we just got yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
short notice, And this is also the Mr. Façade. Revised architectural plans that are only 2 days old, and the traffic study we get the day before the hearing is very little time in my office to review. Let the record state. Nevertheless, you came up with an average of what, 23 available parking spaces on the street? Is that on the weekday, weekend, or the whole week?
That's throughout the whole week, but mainly during the weekday.
And you base that on, instead of a 300-foot radius, a 500-foot radius? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
If you were to reduce it to 300 foot, wouldn't that average reduce? And would you have an idea as to how much based on a 300-foot radius as opposed to 500?
Yes, it would be a little bit reduced, obviously, because there's less area to look at. With that 300-foot average, we're looking at anywhere between about 5 to 10 spaces within that 300-foot range. But again, 500 feet we still feel is a very reasonable distance that somebody would be able to park and easily walk to the site.
Yeah, I got that. All right, but 5 to 10 is a big difference from 23, isn't it?
Certainly, and it just has to do with where that cutoff is and where most of the available parking spaces were. They're mainly along Newark Avenue, about a block and a half south of the site. There was also a handful available on our section of Walnut to the west of the quarter. So it is technically outside that 300 foot, but again, still within range.
And any of those studies you did, especially during the weekday, on any of those adjoining streets, would they have been done at any times that those adjoining streets, would be, deemed to be swept? In other words, if you came up with 20 available parking spaces on either New York Avenue or McWhorter or any street, would any of those numbers be subject to the fact that those streets were slated to be swept that day, which is why you found all those parking spaces to begin with?
So those parking spaces that I mentioned at 23, that's during the overnight, the late night periods between like 9 and 11 o'clock when street sweeping isn't happening. And that's when the residential demand is at its peak. So that's where those numbers are coming from.
Right. And how about during the day? Will we average within a 300-foot radius? What will we be looking at on a weekday, especially in the morning, between 7 to 10?
Mm-hmm.
Within a 300-foot radius?
Yeah, so between 7 to 10, we found anywhere from 8 to 20 spaces within 300 feet. Weekday PM, anywhere from, again, about 5 to 10, and that was about the case for the weekday PM as well as the Saturday and the Sunday, but obviously no street sweeping on the weekends, but that's the numbers within the 300 feet.
Getting back to my original question, the weekdays AM,
mm-hmm.
Those numbers, were any of those, could any of those vacant spaces be attributed to a street that was to be swept the days you did your survey?
We did take those parking restrictions into account, so those numbers would reflect the neglection of those spaces.
So that was taken into consideration when you did your
Right.
Last question. Did you come up with an hourly turnover rate and parking duration? How frequent these spaces became available? In other words, say for instance, you did the survey on the Wednesday morning, March, 26th, 27th, in the morning, and you found 10 vacant spaces on the adjoining street known as McWhorter. All right. Was that for the whole 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., 3-hour duration, or was that every hour?
Right. So we basically, those streets that I named, drove through every half an hour and recorded the number of available spaces every half an hour. So we did account for that hour, those hourly numbers.
So did you by any chance come up with an average hourly turnover rate? An average. How often?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, anywhere from, I guess, 4 to 5 spaces an hour. It wasn't very high, but just looking at the numbers, coming up with something off the top of my head, that's about what it looks like.
4 to 5 spaces per hour. So basically, spaces per hour. So in the 3-hour duration, it could be the same 4 or 5 spaces that came and went, It could be 4 others. So,
Right,
and that's an average.
right.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from any of the professionals for the traffic engineer? Any questions from the board for the traffic engineer? Mr. Hughes, what were
Yes.
the days? What was the days you did your traffic studies on?
We did them on our weekdays were Tuesday, March 26th, and Wednesday, March 27th, and then Saturday and Sunday, April 6th and 7th.
April 6th on Sunday.
Right.
Why not the days when school is in session and businesses are actually fully in session, fully open?
During the weekdays, we made sure that we avoided spring break, of course, for the schools. So we did account for any schools being in session. And those Saturday and Sunday periods, or I guess Saturday mostly when a lot of businesses are open, we counted them from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So essentially during typical business hours. So we did make sure to account for any of those business hours as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you.
Counselor, I don't see any other hands from any objectors. Do you have any questions for the traffic engineer?
Yeah, just a few questions real quick.
Please, who is that?
To Mr. Hughes.
Is that you, Counselor?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
Perfect, thank you so much. So Mr. Hughes, just to confirm, when you guys did your analysis, you took in consideration the city's street sweeping schedule, correct?
Right, that's correct.
And in all those intervals, you guys returned to those exact street corridors every 30 minutes to confirm what was available and what was not available.
Yes, that's correct.
And then you guys also took into consideration when school was in session, including whether or not there was a holiday in place, such as Easter, Passover, spring break, etc.
Yes, that's correct. We counted during typical school hours.
And for your study throughout the duration of both Saturday and Sunday, you made sure that you guys were out there for every other hour or half hour, again confirming what was available and what was not available.
Yes, that's correct.
The AM hour window that you looked at that was determined as the peak hour, can you please state again what was the amount of available spaces pursuant to your study?
Certainly.
Radius.
Yep. So during the residential peak, we found an average of 23 spaces.
And then what about at night, where you guys suggest is the most abundant time period of when individuals were looking for a parking space?
23 spaces. Sorry. So I got them mixed up. The morning that you mentioned the question before, that was anywhere from 8 to 20, and then we found the 23 overnight.
So in your professional opinion, between the fact of us being conveniently located within mass transportation, or approximately 19 buses within route in the general vicinity, and the reduction in density from 18 to 14, do you think the vicinity could accommodate the proposed development as requested through the inquiry of the municipal's engineer's report?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Are there any questions for the traffic engineer from the board, objectors, supporters, professionals? Seeing none, you may call your next professional.
Terrific. Thank you so much. I'm going to call my next professional, who's also my last professional for tonight, Mr. Alex McLean. He is a colleague of John McDonough and will be providing our planning testimony for tonight.
Mr. McLean, please raise your hand. Counsel swear him in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Counsel, qualify your professional.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McLean, can you please provide your educational background and whether or not your license is currently in good standing in the state of New Jersey?
Sure. Yes. I hold a master's in city and regional planning from Rutgers University. Yes, my license is in good standing, and I have testified before this board and boards throughout the state.
Terrific. Does this board accept him as a professional planner within the state of New Jersey?
Is your license current?
Yes.
The board will accept Mr. McLean as a licensed planner. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McLean, have you had an opportunity to review the proposed application and plans associated with this application?
I have, yes.
Terrific. Have you also had an opportunity of reviewing the municipality's master plan and zoning ordinance, most specifically as related to this proposed project?
I have, yes.
And have you also had an opportunity to review the municipality's professional reports, most specifically and for the obvious reason, the planning report?
Yes, I've reviewed the notes, yeah.
Terrific. Can you please walk us through the proposed variances that we're seeking relief here tonight, and why you believe that we warrant the justification of the each variance?
Sure.
Thank
you. So, I mean, well, I'll start by just, I guess, noting the site, just to kind of establish the setting for the application. Yeah, so we are talking about a single tax lot here, corner lot, lot 26 of block 914, an existing 3-story multifamily building. It's in the Ironbound area on East Ward. It's just surrounded by a variety of multifamily buildings for the majority. We're looking to demolish the existing building and construct a 5-story building, which now proposing a reduction from 18 units to 14 units. The zone is the MX1 mixed-use residential and commercial district. This site is a permitted use in this district, so no D1 use relief is required. This site, D6 relief is not required as the height is permitted, and no front, side, or rear variances are required. So no C variances required for those both requirements. So we are requesting a D5 variance. As we just noted before, we're dropping the number of units from 18 to 14 units, but still exceeding the 9-unit limit under the ordinance. But we are requesting some C variance bulk relief for the lot area, which is existing condition, lot width, as the site is is 32.5 feet, and where the 50 feet is required. Bulk coverage, as was noted by the engineer, we are reducing the building coverage from 99% to 90.2%. Lot coverage, sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, to allow 97.5%, which is a reduction from the nearly 100% from the existing condition, and also for the parking. As far as the justification for the D5 relief, I do believe that this application, the application the benefits of the application substantially outweigh the detriments, as it advances multiple purposes of the MLUL, specifically purpose A. It does advance general welfare because it does deliver permitted use. It provides fresh housing stock in this neighborhood, and it advances the goals of the master plan, as the housing goals for this for the master plan calls for an additional 3,000 units by 2026 and 8,000 units by 2032. I believe it advances purpose G by providing a wide variety of uses in the appropriate locations. This is near Ferry Street. Provides reasonable walking distance to the to Newark Penn Station. Purpose M for the efficient use of land. It involves redevelopment of the previously disturbed site and substantially meets the massing controls of the ordinance in the MX1 in the MX1 zone was recently upzoned in response to market demand. Purpose I, obviously for a desirable visual environment, since this is a huge, much needed enhancement in this area. Since this is, as the master plan noted, this area has the average age of the housing stock in this area is about 61 years. So we are providing much needed modern housing in this area. With respect to the negative criteria, I do believe that the benefits, the relief could be granted without substantial detriment to the public good or impairment to the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. Since the density of the development can be adequately watered, sewered, and parked, as noted by the professionals, and based on the testimony before, the site has been designed to flow and function and operate safely and efficiently and comfortably, especially in the sense now where we're talking about a reduction in the number of units to provide more comfortably sized units that are more spacious and it won't cause overcrowding, create an unsafe or uncomfortable living environment for the tenants. And we are going to be making sure to provide washer dryers for all those units. There is a slight degree departure from the zoning plan, which is not substantial. The building is substantially similar in size and volume to some newer buildings in the area. Notably, 60 Elm Street, which is right around the corner from the property, which was recently constructed in 2019. It's a 5-story building with a similar modern facade in the area. 52 Elm Street and 123 New Jersey Railroad Avenue, which is both are 5-story buildings, which are also pretty modern and have similar envelope. So the building size is not out of character with the direction of the new construction in the area. The proposed building will not be the tallest building in the area, as noted. And this is a 5 to 7 there are 5 to 7 story buildings nearby. As noted, there was also new construction on McWater Street, which is a site that's on, which is a 12-story building, and the buildings around the site allow 5 stories, which is of the same height as what is being proposed here. So, and with regard to the bulk variance relief, we were talking about C2 relief to provide better zoning alternative to the site. Here, the benefits substantially outweigh any detriments, and the benefits cited above in the C and the D relief would be carried forth in the C relief. C relief will, none of the C relief will cause impacts of potentially adverse nature to the site. Our traffic expert has addressed the parking relief based on the nature of the area. We are approximately 10 to 11 minutes walking distance away from the Penn Station. The architect addressed transparency relief, particularly to the building, pertaining to the building code has been met. Other bulk relief pertaining to the conditions being improved have been met. The lot area, lot dimension relief has also been met under the C1 hardship standard. Based on the practical difficulties related to the land, not the building or development per se. This is not an overly big building, and the height and setbacks all comply, and the coverage is an improvement over the existing condition. And with that, I believe that this building is in conformance with the character and the density that is, and the density can be accommodated, which meets the requirements under the Grubbs test to permit relief under the D5 variance. So I believe that the criteria this application has been met, and that approval will be warranted.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for the planner? Any questions from our professionals? Seeing none, there's Sabrina with a raised hand. Serena? Hello, Serena?
You have to accept the invitation to be brought in. They declined to be promoted, Chair.
They declined?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, we've heard, Counselor, you've called all your professionals.
Yes, that is correct.
Would anyone from the public like to make a statement in support or against this application? Now is the time for you to make a statement, and we will swear you in. Please raise your hand, and we will bring you into the panel so that you can put on the record your support or your objection to this application. Ms. Mahia, I don't see any hands. Do you see any?
There's one raised hand.
One?
Yes.
Ms. Hurry, we're going to bring you in. You have 3 minutes to make your statement in favor or against this application. Ms. Hurry?
Hi, I think I actually raised my hand prematurely. We're still on Walnut Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
All right, no problem. Well, seeing no comments from the public, Counselor, you may sum up.
Thank you so much. So first and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for their time and their patience and consideration of this application here tonight. And I want to specifically thank the board chair for giving me the opportunity to reconvene with my group to address the comments of this board. I think at this moment we have a project that's much better than was originally being proposed here tonight, and I hope my client doesn't mind me stating that on the record. I think what we have here now is a total of 5 conditions of approval. One is that the single bedroom units will be approximately 650 square feet, an additional 50 square feet of what HMFA recommends as a minimum. The 2 bedroom will be approximately 950 square feet, approximately 50 square feet, actually 100 square feet larger than HMFA, give or take. We are also, as a condition number 3, going to have a washer and dryer in each unit itself. We are also going to agree to remove that oil tank as recommended by the board engineer. And if possible, provided we don't interrupt any of the site triangles, we're also going to include another street tree to further increase the landscaping. I know that one of the topics of interest, though, as far as the testimony went, was the parking relief. I think that everybody definitely heard from all the professionals who touched on it, is that geographically speaking, this subject site itself is located considerably close to Penn Station, and it has 19 buses running throughout the area. So with that being said, it's generally at the epicenter of mass transportation. In addition, for both the AM, PM, and also the weekend, there is considerable parking that's available on the street for any individual who would want to contemplate parking. And as you already know from this application, the study was done to determine whether or not 18 units can be accommodated pursuant to the study. And now that we reduced to 14 units, we're only that much more confident that parking should not be an issue. So for all those reasons as stated on the record, we hope that this board finds in the affirmative. And again, we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Counsel. The board will now go into discussion. Any discussion from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hall?
Yeah. Let me begin by saying that I was concerned with this project in a lot of different areas, particularly parking. Would love to have heard from somebody from the community about, their experiences with parking. We didn't have that. And depending on professional testimony, when you talk about parking, it is right where mass transportation is in a heavy way. So that gives me some level of comfort in regards to parking. I guess I'll struggle for this as long as I'm on the board or have to make these kind of decisions when it comes to parking. But everything else, the building itself is nice. The movement by the applicant to increase the sizes of the apartments, I think was something that's a positive for the tenants that are going to be there, that they'll have living space. The washer and dryers, shouldn't even be a discussion in any application that comes before us. It should be automatic. The people in the city of Newark deserve to have washers and dryers. But they're digging up the oil tank. They're going to give us the tree. I would have recommended, I didn't get a chance, that they work with our arborist to make sure that is something that's going to look nice and not disturb anything. Other than that, I'm going to be in favor of this project, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Riviero.
Hello, good afternoon, good night by now, right? Commissioner Hall, I'd like to tell you that parking around here is really always fun. Even if they build one additional unit or take one away. But to be fair, from coming down from 18 units to 14 units is a lot to give back, and I appreciate that. Making these apartments a decent size. Yeah, the other washer and dryer in the unit, I thought to me at first, I just by looking at it, I wasn't too much in favor of this project. I'm glad you guys worked this out. I wish there was a rooftop, but I'm not gonna ask that right now. You know, so overall, it seems reasonable. But what's currently there, it's not the prettiest building, right? So I would like to put it in simple terms that I will be in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Riviero. Commissioner Thomason, yes.
Yeah, to echo Commissioner Ribeiro, it would have been nice to see a rooftop or some sort of amenity space, considering the amount of lot coverage. I appreciate the fact that the application was submitted in a way that changes could be made on the fly. Unit counts and washing machines, right? The traffic study gentleman, I'd like him to come around during the day when I'm looking for parking because I'm here all day. But I said it before, there's going to be a parking issue and I don't care. You don't move to a city to park. You move to a city for the convenience of mass transit, employment, and things of that nature. So, considering what's there, if you see the building and the structure, the way it's put together now, there's obviously been attempts to make it grow a little bit or try to expand it by building out on the current building. And we're at a point now where there's no more expanding that. And something new is needed to address the need in the area. And I think this was presented in a way that would merit an approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Camasayas. Any other comments from the board? Initially, when this application was presented, I was on the borderline because I thought it was kind of huge, being located in that particular location. But I am grateful and thankful that we had an applicant that said, "Hey, I have no qualms reducing the apartments, bringing it down." Not only did he reduce the number of apartments, but increase the size accordingly to what greater than what the board planner had said it should be. So that's impressive in itself, because sometimes on this board we rarely get all that in one motion. So I think the project is good. Parking is an issue in the city. It's going to be an issue. It's not going to go away no matter what board you're in at this point. So this is where we're at with parking. We're not going to be always able to get parking on site in every application that comes before us. I've accepted that fact. So I would be in favor of that application. Excuse me. I will ask the board at this time for a conditional nomination to approve or deny the application. The reason why it will be conditional if it's approved, because you make changes here tonight that you need to bring before our professionals, and our planner will sign off on it, and then it will have final approval. Are you okay with that, Council?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve application ZBA 2023-771-153-155 Walnut Street with all the conditions on the record and have to come back with a new site plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones, Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hall,
Yes.
Chair Montfort.
Yes. Congratulations. You have conditional approval of your application. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Madam Secretary?
Gotta do site plan, Mr. Chair.
I thought there was, I'm sorry, I apologize. I was thinking we were still on Ferguson Street. Can we get site plan approval, conditional?
Motion.
Second. Call the roll.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hall,
Yes.
Chair Montfort.
Yes, this is application ZBA 23-77-153-155 Walnut Street. Conditional site approval. Approved. Congratulations. Have a good night. Madam Secretary?
Yes, the time is now 8:27 p.m. The next item on tonight's agenda is ZBA-23-32, located at 111 Ferguson Street, Block 1995, Lot 24 in the East Ward. The applicant is Rosalie Cruz Pereira. In the R4 zone, the applicant proposes demolition of existing two-family and construction of a new 3-story two-family dwelling. Applicant is seeking 11 C variances for insufficient lot area per dwelling, insufficient side and rear yard, excessive lot coverage, excessive rear yard impervious cover, insufficient front and rear facade transparency, insufficient parking, insufficient shade trees, and insufficient on-site trees. Site plan approval is not required.
Before we read the findings of fact, Counselor, is your team fully present?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for earlier. I was in a meeting with them yesterday. I thought we were going to have an engineer here, but we only have the architect, and it's based on his plan. So yes, we are ready to proceed.
Are there any supporters for this application? Please raise your hand so that we can bring you into the panel. You have to accept the request to join in order for us to bring you in. You see any, Ms. Mahia?
There are no raised hands, Chair.
Are there any objectors for this application? You may raise your hand so that we can bring you into the panel. You have to accept the request in order to come in. I see Ms. Harry is back. Is she in?
Yes.
Ms. Harry,
Yes, I'm here.
are you an objector to this application? Are you a supporter, or are you just an interested party?
I have a question, so I guess for now I'm objecting, so my question is answered.
All right, you will have a chance to ask questions to the professors who testified tonight. During the time, your questions should only be towards their testimony, nothing else. You will have a time to make your statements for us at the end of their professional testimony.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll read the finding of facts. 111 Ferguson Street. The Board of Justice made the following findings of facts with respect to 111 Ferguson Street, which is located in Newark's Ironbound neighborhood on the eastern side of Ferguson Street between Clover and Ferry Streets. The total site area is approximately 1,544 square feet. The surrounding land uses consist of primarily 2- and 3-story detached dwellings and a furniture warehouse. Council, are you ready to proceed?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Noemi Velosi on the application ZBA 23-32 for the applicant Rosalie Cruz Pereira. And if we can have my architect sworn in.
Mr. Martin, please raise your hand.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Qualify your architect.
Mr. Martin, can you please give us your educational background?
Sure, I have a bachelor's of architecture from NJIT.
And how long have you been a licensed architect, sir?
I've been licensed for about 14 years.
Okay. And have you ever practiced before this or any other board?
I have not testified before this board. I have testified before the Newark Planning Board, and the last board I testified in front of was last month, Clark Township Planning Board.
And sir, is your license current?
Yes, it is.
We will accept Mr. Morton as a qualified architect. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, have you reviewed the planner's report?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and you've reviewed the planner's comments?
Yes, I have.
And is the reason that, unfortunately, we need all these variances, specifically insufficient side and rear yard setbacks, is because this is an undersized lot?
That is correct.
And the same holds true because we have excessive lot coverage and impervious lot coverage, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. As to the impervious coverage, we are in agreement to make the walkway permeable. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're in agreement to replace it with pavers.
Further, is there any way that we can increase the building transparency?
Currently, there is not. So in the front, let's say the front elevation currently it is 17.8%. If we added the elevations, I have little lights above the doors. If we added those, it kind of brings it up to about 19%.
Mr. Martin, do you have a rendering to share with us so we can see what you're talking about?
I am referring
with us.
I can absolutely show you the drawing that I have. I believe this is the drawing that was previously submitted to the board.
And do our secretary have this document?
The document that I'm referring to is the set that was last dated 11/20/23.
Can you pull it up, Mr. Martin?
Have this document? Madam Secretary, do we have these documents or do we have to mark them as Exhibit A? You may proceed for now, Mr. Martin.
Okay. So referring to the front elevation on sheet A01, this is the current elevation that is proposed. So the 17.8% transparency that we're indicating is the windows on the front elevation. If we were to include these little lights over the doors, it brings it up to almost 19%. To fully comply with the requirement is a bit difficult. Even if I was to propose full lights on the doors, we wouldn't get to the 30% required. It is my recommendation that we do not propose full lights on the doors for security reasons, and the applicant prefers to have more of a solid door because these doors are located at grade.
Mr. Martin, in the original plans, we had a front staircase that encroached onto city property, and based on these, we are removing that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What about the shade tree, Mr. Martin? Do we have room to put a shade tree in the front?
The only tree that we have room for is on the public right of way, but nothing on the property.
So, if we're unable to put the tree, Mr. Chairman, we are in agreement to pay into the fund, but we will sit with the city to see if we can place a tree there.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, can you take us through the plans?
Sure, absolutely. So as since we're on the front elevation, we're proposing that the exterior to be more of a traditional look that is more consistent with the existing buildings in the neighborhood. The exterior is going to have a brick veneer with some PVC trim paneling and then a parapet along the top. On the left side, because of the proximity to the side yard, there aren't any windows proposed on that side, and it's going to be fully sided. On the right side, we're proposing additional windows, and it's also siding on that side. On the rear, there we need relief because we're only proposing, I believe it was 4.1% transparency in the rear, where we need 10%. So to kind of make up for that, that's why we propose additional windows on the side. So on the side, we're actually proposing 13.7% transparency. Moving on to sheet A02, which is the floor plans. At grade on the first floor, there's going to be one apartment with 3 bedrooms and a 1-car garage. There's going to be 2 independent stairs, one that reaches just the first floor apartment, and then the second one takes you up to the second floor apartment. There is up on the second floor, this apartment will have 4 bedrooms, and then it will have an additional bonus room up in the attic that is shown on the sheet A03, this 3rd floor, which is really a bonus room with a small little roof deck for this bonus room is really only accessible by the 2nd floor apartment. If I return back to the sheet A02, there is a common basement with a laundry facility.
Mr. Martin, can you tell us the size of the bedrooms on the first floor apartment?
Sure. Bedroom 1 is 11'9" by 10'9". Bedroom 2 is 9'10" by 13'3". Now the 13'3" is the maximum extent. And then bedroom 3 is 9'9" by 10'3".
And what about the second floor apartment?
So the second floor, bedroom 1 is 12 feet by 10'9". Bedroom 2 is 9'10" by 13'3". Bedroom 3 is 9'9" by 10'3". Bedroom 4 is 9'7" by 17'7".
Yeah, Mr. Martin, if we go down to the basement, there's going to be laundry facilities down there for both apartments, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and the rest of the area is just it's a cellar area. It's just for, I guess, the hot water heaters as well as for storage, correct?
That's correct, tenant storage.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Chairman, I do not have any other questions of Mr. Martin.
Mr. Martin, are you finished with your testimony?
Yes, sir, I am.
Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Hazel, board planner.
Yes. I was just looking, I did see that you indicated you're going to remove the staircase from being in the public right of way. How is that going to be done? Are you bringing the floor down or something? I mean, how do you get in if you don't have those little staircases, that little staircase anymore?
So I zoomed in on the first floor plan, and here we have one step up to a landing inside the building, and then those steps that I would have needed outside are added onto the inside. Gotcha. So in the basement, there would be a low ceiling.
Thank you.
I see no hands raised from the commissioners. Ms. Hurry. Ms. Hurry?
Yes, I'm here.
You have a question for the architect?
Maybe not the architect. I'm not sure if this is maybe a legal question or not.
Well, shoot your question because this is the only professional the applicant has tonight.
Okay, got it. So I'm wondering, I see that on the agenda there's a proposal to demolish the current property that's there, and I'm wondering if there were ever community members who were living there that did maybe have to leave because of this proposal, I'm asking this question because I know that in this area there is a history of development at the expense of people who are residing in these spaces. So I'm just wondering if community members were present in this particular property. Did they have any relocation services, things of that sort? And I'm also wondering too, right, even if community members are not present there right now, if it is vacant, what are the city's policies, right, when we're demolishing a property? How do we relocate or protect those from displacement when we have these new developments in the city?
Thank you, Ms. Hurry. The first question you asked, I'm sure the applicant's counsel can answer the question for you. The second one is not our jurisdiction, so we really can't answer that question in reference to this application. Counsel, you want to answer the first question?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. If anybody's passed by this property or if they've done a Google search on it, this is an old, dilapidated building. It is not safe, and there are no tenants there. And that's why we're proposing to demolish the old two-family and put up this beautiful, brand-new two-family.
Thank you. So there were never any tenants there, just to clarify.
A few years ago.
Got it, but not recently.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hurry. Any further questions?
I think the next question I may have then, considering that this is going to be a brand new area, right? Brand new development, there hasn't been anyone prior living there in a while. What is the rent going to currently, I mean, if you can't answer this question, maybe not. I know you only have one person here tonight. But what is the rent going to look like for this property, and how many units are going to be currently available?
Ms. Hurry, the only thing I can tell you is that my client intends to occupy that second floor. That's why she made it a larger, nicer apartment with the terrace. So I know the first floor unit will be available at whatever market rate is. I can't answer that.
So they're market rate apartments.
Correct.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Counsel, you have any other witnesses or questions?
Mr. Chairman, we submit.
We submit. Ms. Hurry, would you hold on? Commissioner Commissariat.
No questions.
Ms. Hurry, would you like to make a statement?
No, that'd be all. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I know it's very late, so I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out, Ms. Hurry. Counsel, would you like to sum up?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I ask is that the board approve this application. Again, we're taking an old, dilapidated two-family that is an eyesore. We're turning it into a beautiful, brand new two-family, and we hope that you approve it. Thank you.
The board will now go into discussion. Any comments from the board?
Yeah. Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's pretty straightforward for me. They're demolishing an old, beat-up, dilapidated building. They're putting some new stock there. The applicant's going to live on the second floor. That's always good. And I would just wish the applicant well, and I'm going to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Riviera.
I agree with Commissioner Hall. I feel like it's very straightforward. Taking down an old building, put up a new one that already seems to take up all the space in that lot already. So they're not giving or taking anything away. It's always nice to see a new building too. So I will be in favor of it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Commissariat, is that an old hand or new?
New hand. I agree with what the other commissioners say. I love the fact that these are larger size apartments on a block that has a lot of new redevelopment on it. A few buildings going up over there. And these larger units will always be there, right? Up until at least the foreseeable future. So the fact that there'll be some larger size units, owner occupied homes in the neighborhood would be nice to see, especially because that house is an eyesore right now. So I'd be in favor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further? I'm going to be in favor of the application because I see nothing negative with this. Nothing negative with this application. Everything that's presented here is positive. So I will be in favor of the application. Can I get a motion?
Chair.
Go ahead. Commissioner Hall?
Yes, I make a motion to approve applications DBA -23-32, 111 Ferguson Street, block 1995, lot 24. Application to approve. Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Was that Commissioner Commissioner? Call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Comesañas.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivero.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hall.
Yes.
Chair Mumford.
Yes. Congratulations, your application has been approved.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, at this point in time, I believe that was our last application. Ms. Mahir? Yes?
Yes.
So we have some memorializations to do?
Yes. 2 resolutions, and the
2?
21st minutes are going to be moved till next week.
Okay, let's go with our memorialization resolutions. Who has them? Council, you have them?
I don't believe I have them. Let me see.
I can read them.
If not, Ms. Mahir, you have them, right? Because I have them somewhere in my email.
So the first one is ZBA-23-51, 395-397 Sanford Avenue, 2-10 Marion Avenue.
Any corrections? Hearing none, call the roll.
Member Hardesty.
Yes. Approve.
Member Comesañas.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivero.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hall.
Yes.
Chair Mumford.
Yes.
And the
next resolution.
The next one is the ZBA Council resolution.
That is the contract, right?
Yeah.
All right. That is the contract for our corporation, for our councilors to continue being councilors for the zoning board. Call the roll.
Member Hardesty.
Yes.
Member Comesañas.
Yes.
Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Rivero.
Yes.
Member Cobian.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hall.
Yes.
Chair Mumford.
Yes. Madam Secretary, does this conclude the business for tonight?
Yes.
At this time, our business for tonight's zoning board meeting has come to a conclusion. Can I get a motion to, I'm sorry, I apologize. Do we have, council, do we have any reason to go into executive session?
Not for my notes from Attorney Allwaters, no.
Right. Thank you. So now this officially concludes our business for the night. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, all. See y'all.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.